Professor Yael Idan, who is the head of a large multidisciplinary research group, ABC, in Ben-Gurion University in the south of Israel. Yael is also a member of the executive committee of AIROB, the Israeli Robotic and Smart System Association, and Yael will address the R&D aspects of social robots and elderly. Professor Yael Idan, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Yossi. It's a pleasure and honor to present some of our work research at ABC Robotics, the Agriculture, Biological, and Cognitive Robotics initiative at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. And in this coming presentation, I will present some of our research and development findings and go over very briefly some of our research activities. So we all know that the world population is aging and there's an increasing number of older adults. This, along with the lack of healthcare givers, gives a big need for robotics. The COVID-19, as Yossi mentioned, raised a new need and raised an increased need in order to overcome the problems that are associated with social distancing. So social robotics is one of the solutions, and a very important solution, which can help us bring this elder care gap. A social assistive robot blends the functions of both assistive robotics, robots that assist the humans, and social robotics that help humans through social intelligence. They're able to provide us with physical support, cognitive stimulation, and even safety monitoring. When we look at elder care activities, there are several different areas where SARS, social assistive robots, could assist us. First, and the basics, are ADLs, activities of daily living, feeding, bathing, dressing. Another type is instrumental activities of daily living, in which the robot really assists and helps in shopping, in housework, in cleaning, in getting around, in reminding the person to take medicine. And of course, there's social and enriching activities, enhanced activities of daily living, regarding hobbies, leisure time, physical activities. Our work focuses mostly on utilitarian functions, based on some research that I won't be presenting today, in which we basically proved that a robot, in order to engage, in order to motivate the older adult, it must have some utilitarian function and not just be a discussion forum or something like that. So our activities are focusing on that. However, there has been a significant amount of research and development in all these areas of ADLs, IADLs, EADLs. However, despite this, there are several challenges. First of all, there's a lot of misinterpretation of robot roles by older adults. Older adults are not used to technology, and even if they are, they really don't always understand what is exactly the robot supposed to do. There's a mismatch of expectations. There's not enough engagement, not enough motivation for the older adult to use the robot. There's a big deal how to advance robot acceptance, and of course we also must always consider the ethical considerations. Our research focus on the mismatch of expectations, basically the lack of fit of users' expectations of the robot's role during the caregiving task. This mismatch is very important because it could lead to the misuse if the user over relies on the robot on one hand, or it can also lead to disuse if the user underutilizes the robot. So we will try to address, and I will pinpoint some of our research, the research that is related to social assistive robotics and basically the C in ABC Robotics, which deals with this. We focus really on the design of the interaction, and what I'll show, we also have additional research that is focusing on the AI aspects. I will today focus on the interaction design. The design of the interaction between the robot and the human. And we take into account a holistic approach when we do this interaction design. And basically, we must take, and this is what I'll try to pinpoint in my presentation today, we must take into account the robot, the task, the environment, and the human whenever we deal with this interaction design. And we will be discussing two major aspects. The first aspect, the levels of transparency. We want to maintain proper transparency to keep the users constantly aware of the state, intentions, actions, reasoning process, even the future plans of the robot, on one hand, while keeping them in the loop and keeping them active. So the content of information communicated is very important, and this occurs at several levels. The first level is the perception level. We need the user to be able to receive information of the state of the robot, the state of the environment. We need all the sensors to be able to reflect to the robot. The second level is the comprehension level, which basically takes into account both the think and the decide. How does the information relate to achieve the goal that the robot wants to achieve? And of course, the action level, the projection level. What can be predicted about the future state of the robot, about the environment, based on the information that is received? In addition to the levels of transparency, there's the levels of automation. At what a robot can be operated at different levels of automation. At the very low level, okay, the human is fully activating the robot. The robot acts only according to human commands. At the other extreme, at the fully autonomous level, the robot operates without the human in the loop. Now we want to try and balance this because it's very important for us to keep the human active on one hand. On the other hand, we want to maximize efficiency and performance. So we have to try and find the levels of automation that are in between. And in between, we can manage by exception, in which basically the controller the robot operates and informs the human. The human can intervene on one hand. On the other extreme, there's management by consent. The controller must approve the decisions for the operation. So there's really a trick what level of automation to develop at, to operate at, depending on the human, depending on the environment, depending on the task, depending on the robot. And another question which we are not dealing yet with is who decides on this level? Is this done adaptively? Is this decided by the robot when he sees the human starting to fatigue or starting to disengage? Or is this decided totally by the human? So basically, our research goal is to improve the design of interaction between older adults and their assistants, increase the understanding through feedback. So what we're trying to do is link the level of automation with the level of transparency in order to increase the understanding based on an efficient design. We want to develop and evaluate different levels of automation that are fit for older adults. And mostly, we want to improve the quality of interaction through this improved design. So basically, our research focuses on function allocation on one hand, design of levels of automation, the development of it, the evaluation of it. On the other hand, the automation transparency, how do you develop feedback, how do you evaluate it? We integrate both of these together, and this helps us evaluate and develop a framework for the quality of interaction, which is dependent on human variables. There will be difference between older adults and younger adults. It depends on robot variables, and therefore we tested in a multitude of platforms, and I'll just really pinpoint some of our research today. Task variables, there's different tasks require different engagement. Some tasks are important, some tasks are less important, some tasks are urgent, some tasks are safety, and of course there are different environments. And all these must be integrated in order to evaluate and to create the framework of quality of interaction. We developed a whole scale of performance measures. This is part of our development. In part, we use also standard evaluations. Common human-robot interaction measures must be connected with robot performance, human performance, and we must include also the interaction between the home robot and the human experience. Robot performance, for example, the accuracy of the task, the time of the task. Human experience includes the level of comfort, safety, trust, workload, even pleasure and joy, situation awareness, of course. And the interaction characteristics include engagement, politeness. We have some work on politeness. I won't be showing today, unfortunately, because of the limit of time. So these are some of the performance measures that we will be taking into account when along our evaluation. Now I will show you the different steps in our feedback development. First of all, the level of transparency, of course, the content of the feedback, then the mode of feedback, how do we deliver this feedback, the timing of feedback, and of course the evaluation of all these different tasks. We have evaluated this in different tasks, okay, and it's very important, using different platforms. So we have a person following robot with a mobile robot. Another mobile robot application is with a telenursing task. We have a table setting task in which we have a manipulator, a 7-degree freedom robot, and we have a physical exercise in which we have a humanoid robot. And I'll pinpoint some of these studies, and you're invited to look into our website for some of the papers, videos, and so on. And I'd like to start basically with our physical training robotic system. And you'll see here in the background the video that is showing different types of robots that we evaluated. We compared a humanoid robot to a more mechanical structure. We compared different types of feedback. And you can see the users, their reactions. We, of course, developed the full system, including feedback. The system was currently developed for both balancing and strength exercises, standard exercises from the National Institute of Health in the United States.
יפה מאוד. להתראות. מקווה שנהנית באימון. להתראות.
ביי.
שנהנית באימון.
מאוד.
תודה.
אני קונה אחד כזה.
שהוא מלמד, זה כל כך טוב וזה כל כך ברור. מאוד נהניתי ואני רוצה אתכם.
Okay, so these are some of the experiments, and it's very important to do the experiments. And just to show you an example of a study, we had 32 participants aged 70 to 88, okay, and this is very important. It's very important to evaluate with the actual users, and there will be difference if I use such a system with young people versus older adults. We had quite an equal distribution between male and female. We evaluate both discrete and continuous feedback. We compared audio feedback versus combined audio and visual feedback. And as I mentioned, we compared two types of robot. The Now, which is a traditional humanoid robot, and a more mechanical like robot. This was after we compared the results with a video which simulated exactly the same exercises. And in that paper, we found that robotics is engaging, is motivating the older adults, and it is much more important. And therefore, we went to the second level, which I'm showing you now. So we compared these two types of robots, a kind of a toy robot versus a very mechanical looking robot. And I won't go through all the details. You're invited to look into the paper. But we can see here through the different performance measures that I showed before, that the mechanical, less toy robot was more satisfying, created more enjoyment and engagement. We compared different types of feedback. Do I just present visual feedback? Do I add audio versus only audio? Okay. And here again, the combined option is preferable and creates better engagement and furthermore better understanding. We also compare discrete feedback versus continuous feedback, and here again the users preferred the continuous feedback. Now the previous results that I show you were the subjective results. These results were consistent. Sorry, something's not going right here. These results are consistent with the objective results. Continuous feedback created a positive attitude, better understanding, increased engagement, decreased the reaction time. However, discrete feedback they were more comfortable with. Okay, the combined feedback increased engagement, comfortability, and ease of use. Okay, and the mechanical type of robot also for the older adults had increased the engagement, and they had a better attitude towards using this. I think the main reason is that they didn't want to see themselves as playing with a toy. Okay, so they understood that this is kind of some kind of a mechanical trainer that helps us and gives us feedback. Okay, so again, this was one study, a very small study. Another study, and I'll just show you, go through fast here, is a table setting with a total different platform, a total different task. Just to show you some of it here, while it's running in the background, we again evaluated different type of feedback modalities, what type of feedback is better, what level of feedback complexity is better, how do we present. Of course, we had to go through the full system development, and just to show you the types of feedback that were developed. So we had one which in a LED flashing, okay, which indicated the process. Another was a GUI, which apparently the older adults were so busy looking into the robot that eventually the audio feedback is critical. Okay, and we had different types of audio, different types of video, and their combination. Okay, now a major perspective here, and this I will be emphasizing all along my presentation, is we want to keep the user engaged. We do not want the robot to do everything autonomously. And this is, first of all, in order to increase motivation, in order to increase use, and in order to increase the activity of the older adult. Okay? Because if he will not be engaged in the actual process, he will deteriorate further along time. Okay, so some insights, and I just showed you two of our studies. It is very important to provide information on what the robot is currently doing. The older adult must understand what is going on. Voice feedback combined with visual feedback is important and should be applied if possible. And continuous feedback is preferable in order to keep the users constantly aware of the state of the interaction. Okay, our next step of our research deals with levels of automation models in which we designed, implemented, and evaluated, again, for various condition, tasks, and users. And I must emphasize, you cannot take any findings just from one research. You need to evaluate, for example, we evaluated for different task complexities, different feedback modalities. So we had a combination of level of automation with feedback modality, and for varying workload and complexity levels. Now, again, this is all aimed either at older adults or at caregivers, and these are two different audiences, and we must check everything for the different populations. And just to give you some highlight of results, a high level of automation improved performance and reduced the workload for tasks which had low complexities. However, if I have a high task complexity, I receive a reverse trend, as you can see here in the graphs. On the left side, we have the low complexity. Here we have the high complexity. And here we have the low level of automation, and here we have the high level of automation. Okay, so I can say that I always want a high level of automation. If I have a low task complexity, yes, use a higher level of automation. If I have a high task complexity, I want the reverse. We did, again, several different studies. This is an example of a study with older adults in which we had a Pepper robot navigate through a real user home, and it was supposed to deliver some tasks. In parallel, it was supposed to be able to detect hazards in order to be sure that it doesn't trip. The LOA-LOT integration is very important, and what we aim to, we're not there yet, is to develop adaptable level of automation. So the system itself decides what is the involvement of the human, what is the autonomous abilities that the robot performs. In addition, we want also adaptable level of transparency. Okay, now the level of automation can be done at different aspects of the task, at the sensing, at the processing, at the decision making, and of course at the action itself. Okay, and this also goes for the information, for the actual information and the level of transparency, which can be done at the perception level, at the compression level, and at the projection level. So again, we evaluate this integration in several different tasks, and I will just show you one of our tasks, the human following task with a mobile robot. And just when you look through the video, please see the engagement of the user is critical, because if I want this user to continuously use the robot, if it's for the physical training task and if it's for a more utilitarian task, like here, he has to be involved and aware of what is going on. Okay, so again, it's very important, and I just want to emphasize some examples in two robotic test cases in which we did very intensive studies with older adults. I would say a major problem is recruiting these older adults for the experience, which was enhanced through COVID. But nevertheless, you cannot design a system and design the interaction without the actual user studies, which are critical. So just to show you engagement, if I compare in two different tasks, the person following task and the table setting task. So what we see here at a low level of automation, the engagement is increased in both the studies. I cannot say the same for understanding, which I do have differences, and therefore it is very important to design the interaction depending on the human, the environment, the task, and the robot. Some design recommendations, and this again is from all of our studies. When possible, operate the robot at a low level of automation. Keep the older adult more actively involved in the task. Combining low LOA with high level of transparency helps keep the older adults more aware of the robot's operations on one hand, and doesn't overload them with information. This is very important also. However, in situations of urgency, high level automation should be used, and then it's recommended to combine this with low level of transparency to avoid information overload. And very important, do not operate the robot at the same LOT for different LOAs. It's very important to ensure that the robot's actions match the expectations of the older adults. We have additional studies, an additional study just to show you another, I still have time, so we'll just show you a very brief study in which we have a mobile robotic telepresent experience. We want to increase situation awareness. The robot is doing different tasks for the human, which can be neutralized, or we're doing an evaluation now for a telenursing task. Okay, so just to show you, the robot is going around, what kind of information I present, when do I present this information, how do I present this information, how do I let the user control the robot. Does he have to continuously control, or he just gives a command, go to the kitchen? Okay, do I have a safety monitoring system on this robot? Okay. So some contributions of our research: automation transparency for the social assistive robotics are very important. Feedback development must be developed, must be integrated in order to enhance the automation transparency. It is very important to develop suitable LOA models for the older elder care task, which is totally different than from other populations. And it is very important, as we just showed you, to integrate the LOA and transparency models. And eventually, we're leading to develop a framework to assess this quality of interactions. And just to sum up, with a cognitive task, a totally different task, in which this great Pepper robot is developing, is intended to be placed in an older elder care facility, and encourage the older adults for cognitive games. And we're evaluating here different types of feedback. Positive feedback, it will be different. The Pepper presents the order of cups. The user is supposed to emulate it. And what we're evaluating here, and look along the video at the engagement and the motivation, and even of young students, okay? And they know this is an experiment, but they are totally engaged. And this is critical if we want these older adults to come daily in and play this game or do physical training, okay? So it's saying here, okay, you made me want to dance, and it's giving different types of applause. You did a great game, and you can see the engagement. And now I'm increasing. This is an adaptive robot, so when the user is good enough, I go up to the next level, okay? And I make it more difficult. When I see the user is getting higher, I decrease the level because I don't want to create frustration, okay? So it's very important to develop this adaptiveness also. And here we're showing examples of negative feedback. No, you did not do it again, so do it. And now you were wrong. Maybe next time you'll do it better, okay? This is wrong, that you'll do better again next time, okay? And this is just to show you some of the feedback at the end of the game, okay? You finished, congratulations, hallelujah. And again, just look at the engagement, and this engagement is critical, okay? And they know they're videoing, but they were totally engaged in the game. So I would just like to thank all the research partners, the professors that have been working with me from human factors engineering, communications engineering, physical therapy. Of course, all the users and all our great students, many master students and graduate students. And for more details, you are welcome to look into our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yael, for this insightful presentation. I know ABC for a long time. It's really amazing interdisciplinary robotic research you are invited to look at.